Welcome back to your channel Tiger Moon. Tonight we are bringing you part 6, the final episode of season 1 of The Haunted Village. Before we begin, I want to explain something about the word Gurzad. Many people have only recently heard this term. Different meanings have been attributed to it over the years. In folklore, it can refer to an evil spirit of the earth and mountains, an underground jinn, or small human-like creatures. Based on the descriptions given throughout The Haunted Village, the third meaning seems to fit best, at least within the context of this story. Anyway, if you're ready, let's hear the final episode. Yes, our story left off when Muhammad and I returned to the school and discovered that someone had entered through the hall and completely ransacked the teacher's room. I was convinced it was the work of jinn. Muhammad disagreed. If it were jinn, he said, they wouldn't need to open doors. It's probably a thief. I immediately checked all my belongings. Everything was exactly where I had left it. Even my mobile phone, which had been charging in the room, was untouched. Once I was sure nothing had been stolen, I looked up and said, "See? Muhammad, it wasn't a thief." Muhammad pointed toward the corner of the carpet. "Look over there, there's dirt." Part of our floor covering was covered with soil. I had no idea where it had come from. Then a thought struck me. "Gurzads," I exclaimed. "They must have come up from underground." Muhammad shook his head. "Mr. Amin, you've become even more superstitious than the villagers," I snapped back. "What superstition? I've seen them with my own eyes." To calm me down, Muhammad rolled up every carpet and mat in the room. There wasn't a single hole anywhere. The floor was completely covered with tile. I fell silent. What a cursed night. First the wolves, then losing the fish, and now this. Suddenly Muhammad slapped my shoulder. Maybe they went to the clinic. Since the clinic had practically been entrusted to me, I jumped up immediately and followed him. When we reached the clinic grounds, we slowed down and approached carefully. The main entrance was locked. Inside, every other door was locked as well. After checking all the rooms, we secured everything again and headed back toward the school. We hadn't even entered the school grounds when Muhammad suddenly shouted. I ran inside just in time to see a tall shadow leap across the wall near the bathrooms before vanishing. I froze. Muhammad sprinted toward the toilets. A few minutes later, he returned slowly. It's like it turned into smoke and disappeared. Still trapped in my own thoughts, I whispered, "It's a jinn. Of course it can do that." Seeing how shaken I was, Muhammad grabbed my arm and led me back inside. I trembled until sunrise. But whatever it was, it definitely wasn't my soap. It felt like a hard, furry object. I quickly pulled my hand back and bent down to see where my soap had gone. I couldn't believe what I saw. The thing standing behind the door instantly sent my heart racing and a burning sensation through my body. Still bent over, I collapsed onto the floor and blacked out. When I came to, I found myself lying on the edge of the bath pool. Two bath attendants, Yadola and Muhammad, were standing around me. I looked at them in terror. Haj Yadola held out a large glass and said, "It's nothing. The heat of the bath got to you. Drink this syrup." I pushed the glass away. "Where is it?" I asked. "Who?" Haj Yadola replied. "There's nobody here except us." With trembling hands, I pointed toward the hallway. "No, someone is there." Muhammad, the only one still standing, walked toward the hallway. "There's nobody here. Just like Haji said, the steam got to you." I sat up angrily. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed one of the attendants whispering something to his friend. The moment I saw that, my suspicion became certainty. "Haji, tell me the truth. You told the doctor that whatever this is, you should tell me." Haj Yadola once again offered me the glass and insisted I drink it. After I finished it, my blood sugar rose enough for me to stand. The bathhouse was already closing. Muhammad and I went to Haj Yadola's house. He treated us generously, but my mind was still stuck on what I had seen. Of course, that didn't stop me from eating. After dinner, Haj Yadola's wife came over and performed what they called removing the evil eye from me. She exchanged glances with Haji. Haji Adola pulled several banknotes from his pocket and gave them to her so she could donate them as charity. It was very late, past 2 in the morning. Mohammed Javad told Haji it was time for us to return to the school. Haji gave Mohammed endless instructions to keep an eye on me, and the two of us headed back. Thankfully, the school was exactly as we had left it. Once we were under our blankets, I asked Mohammed, "So, what's really going on?" Trying to avoid the question, he replied, "You tell me first." "Fine, but you're hiding something from me." Mohammed turned completely toward me. "You tell me what you saw, and I'll tell you what I know." I leaned against the wall and began. My soap slipped from my hand. When I reached down to grab it, my hand touched a huge amount of hair. At first I thought it was someone's leg, but when I looked under the door, I saw a pair of thin furry legs standing there. I paused. At first I still thought they belonged to a person, but when I looked carefully, there were no toes, no heel, nothing. Mohammed sat halfway up. "Did it have hooves?" "No, nothing like that. Just fur, but I'm sure they were legs." After I finished speaking, Mohammed fell silent. I became irritated. "Now it's your turn," he sighed. "I never saw anything myself." "The doctor did." He continued. "When the doctor first arrived in the village, he was extremely confident. He used to say he wasn't afraid of anything. One night he went to the bathhouse. Haji Adola was outside, but the doctor was completely alone inside the bath pool. After a while, he got bored, took a shower, and went into the dressing room. Before he'd even removed his towel, he heard someone walking inside the bathhouse and then jumping into the water. The doctor was confused. He thought, I've been alone this entire time. Where did this guy come from? Out of curiosity, he peeked back into the pool area. There he saw a hairy man sitting in the water with his back turned toward the dressing room. His legs were floating on the surface, exactly like what you described. The doctor didn't faint. He ran straight to the entrance and told Haji Adola everything. After that, Haji advised him never to stay alone in the bathhouse at night. Not long after, the doctor hired someone to install a solar water heater at the school. From that day on, he never returned to the village bathhouse, no matter how cold the clinic water was. After Muhammad finished speaking, I didn't say another word. I pulled the blanket over my head. I had no idea what I was dealing with. Maybe one of the bath attendants had been trying to scare me. Maybe the same person had ransacked the room earlier. Maybe they wanted me to leave the village. If those legs belonged to a jinn, then how had I physically touched them? Something felt wrong. A conspiracy, perhaps. But why? The thing that bothered me most was that the doctor had seen it too. Both of us were outsiders. Maybe some fool in the village believed outsiders brought bad luck. But neither of us had come searching for treasure. He was a doctor. I was a teacher. I was drowning in these ridiculous thoughts when Mohammed's voice pulled me back to reality. I couldn't believe it. It was already 6 in the morning. With a groan, I got up and headed for the bathroom. When I returned, Mohammed asked whether he should teach in my place if I still felt sick. Honestly, I didn't feel well at all, but I couldn't let him do it again. I thanked him and told him I'd be fine. Near the last school bell, I suddenly remembered that I had afternoon classes as well. After lunch, I grabbed my wallet so I could buy supplies on the way back. We had almost nothing left to eat. I kept wondering how I was supposed to get to the city when my leave finally started. By then, I'd probably be completely out of money. After the afternoon class, the village imam came over and questioned me about what had happened in the bathhouse. Unlike everyone else, who always avoided the topic, he openly said, "The wind of the jinn has touched you." He gave me a necklace and said it contained protective verses and that I should wear it around my neck. I accepted it, but after he left, I simply put it in my pocket. After prayers, I stopped by the village shop. Eggs and pasta seemed like the best choices. Back then they were cheap and filling. On the way back, I asked Mohammed if he could find me a few hens that laid eggs. When we reached the school, he said finding chickens wasn't difficult. The real problem was where to keep them. Then he repeated what the doctor had once told me about the vicious predator that hunted livestock. That's when I remembered the wire mesh I had bought earlier. We decided to build a coop at the school. Mohammed suggested putting it on the roof. It'll be 50% safer up there, I smiled. So that creature can't get onto the roof, right? Mohammed smirked. Of course it can, but at least it won't be able to dig underneath. The roof is waterproof and tiled. One afternoon, while we had nothing better to do, we built a wooden frame on the roof and wrapped it with wire mesh. I even covered it with a sheet of metal so my future chickens would stay dry when it rained. The very next day, Mohammed arrived with 4 fat, healthy hens. They looked so delicious that for a moment I considered forgetting about eggs and just eating them all. But this was a long-term investment. After a lot of arguing, he set the price at $60, a huge discount according to him. I promised to pay him after returning from my leave. He slapped my shoulder and laughed. Forget it, so many of our chickens have been eaten by jackals and weasels. What's for more? Then he quickly laughed again, so I wouldn't take him seriously. He recommended feeding them wheat if I wanted them to lay eggs. Since I didn't have much food to spare, wheat was all they got. One morning before classes started, I climbed onto the roof and found 4 brown eggs shining among the wood shavings. I was so happy that for a few moments I forgot every problem I'd ever had. Even while teaching that day, I couldn't stop smiling. December passed slowly. There was still no sign of the doctor. Every time we called him, his phone was off. Little by little, I started losing hope that he would ever return. Exactly a few days before the final exams began, I went to the district school office to request leave. It turned out to be much more complicated than I expected. The principal wrote out a handwritten form, signed it, and told me, "You need to take this to the county education office so they can approve it." Annoyed, I took the paper and headed into town. I waited there until almost the end of office hours. I was beginning to lose hope when a young man stepped out of an office and said, "Here you go. It's been approved. Just tell Hakimian not to leave the school unattended during the exams." I took the document and happily returned to the district. At the bottom of the leave form, I noticed another signature belonging to a military officer. That surprised me. Everyone at the education office had been civilians. When I looked closer, I realized the signature was printed. They had probably gotten approval over the phone and added the signature as a formality. 2 days later, it was finally time to leave. Once again, Mohammed took over my duties and he even lent me a little money. I don't know why, but the children seemed genuinely happy whenever Mohammed was around. Early that morning I said goodbye to everyone, then I left the village with Ismail. After 4 long months I was finally going home. Well my friends, that brings part 6 to an end. What did you think of this long serialized story? For the next week or 2 I'll be posting shorter stories while we prepare for season 2. As the poet says, "An old man showed me a handful of dust and said, 'Nothing remains of us except this.' If you do not know it now, know it well. May God protect you. With respect, Tiger Moon."